I'll never forget the first night I realized there was something wrong with the lack of food in the neighborhood I grew up in.
Food!
Growing up, we always had a car, but that night the car broke down and we needed a tow. By the time we made it home, the sun had set, our bellies were empty, and so was our fridge. So after bundling up, we started our march to the closest restaurant. By the time we ordered our food and made it back home, it was an hour later. That night, the dinner conversation wasn't about the family vehicle. It was about the walk we had just went through to get to the closest restaurant. We didn't know it then, but our complaints were about life in the area of food insecurity. While that night was inconvenient for us, it was nothing compared to the experience of people who live without reliable access to food every single day. In a culture of on-demand food delivery apps, the food insecurity crisis may seem irrelevant to you. There are people all around the world and even in our communities impacted by it. The food insecurity crisis demands our attention because it threatens the well-being of individuals, families, and communities both globally and locally. Not only have I lived in food insecure areas, I have also worked at an agricultural high school where students learned about food systems and shortages. First, I'll define food security. Second, I will discuss the global food insecurity crisis and current efforts to combat it. And finally, I will discuss the American food insecurity crisis and local efforts to reduce its impact. Let's explore the food insecurity crisis. For most of us, the first question is, what exactly is food insecurity? The USDA defines food insecurity as a household level economic and social condition of limited or uncertain access to adequate food. Food insecurity has many faces. In some situations, food insecurity means access without resources. Those are people who live by healthy options but can't afford to eat. In other situations, food insecurity means limited or no healthy food options. And even worse, in other situations, it looks like famine or a complete lack of food. Now that we've defined food insecurity, let's zoom out for a second and consider the troubling number of people worldwide affected by the food insecurity crisis. Food insecurity affects us at an alarming rate. According to the United Nations, over 2.4 billion people, or nearly 1/3 of the global population, lack consistent access to food. Less than 2 weeks ago, most of us spent time with our family and friends eating our favorite foods. As we feasted, other people experienced famine. And as we went back for seconds or packed our to-go plates, 1 in every 3 people across the globe experienced food insecurity. Statistics like that are the reason why the World Food Program brings food to over 120 countries. In 2024, in the 2024 report published by the WFP, since 2022, the country of Ukraine has continued to send food to countries experiencing famine. Since the Russian invasion in 2022, Ukraine has continued to provide food and aid to countries experiencing famine despite fighting its own war. This extraordinary effort underscores the significance of the food insecurity crisis, and it also takes away our excuse for not doing our part to help those in need. If people can fight war on their homeland and still find time to send help abroad, there's no reason why people who live at peace can't be part of the solution. That's the global scale of food insecurity, but it's important to remember that no country is immune to this crisis. So let's look at how the U.S. is dealing with this issue. America has long marketed itself as the land of prosperity, but even here, the impact of food insecurity can be felt. While less people experience food insecurity in America than several other countries, the numbers are still heartbreaking. According to a recent USDA economic research report, roughly 4.5 million people, or 13.5% of the U.S. population, experienced food insecurity last year. That's just over 7 times the population of Detroit. Fortunately, Michigan has some great organizations doing the work to end food insecurity. Forgotten Harvest is a Metro Detroit organization that provides over 42 million pounds of food locally. According to their 2022-2023 impact report, that's the equivalent of 33.5 million meals provided in last year alone. While they've been able to accomplish a lot of work over the last 30 years, this organization and organizations like it can't end food insecurity alone. They need more partners, more volunteers, and even new organizations like their own. We've considered the global and local perspectives of food insecurity, but the question now is, what can we do about it? Let's reflect on what we've learned and consider the role we can play in helping those in need. Today, we've defined food insecurity. Secondly, we considered the global food insecurity crisis and the current impacts it has on society. Finally, we considered the American food insecurity crisis and local efforts to reduce its impact. The food insecurity crisis demands our attention because it threatens the well-being of individuals, families, and communities globally and locally. Food insecurity crisis is about more than hunger. It's about people who can't reach their full potential because of something as simple as a meal. It's about children going to bed without dinner. It's about families struggling to make ends meet and communities held back by a lack of access to food. But awareness alone won't fix this problem. Now that we know this crisis exists, we have the chance to be part of the solution. Whether through volunteering, through donating, or through advocating for better policies, each of us has a role to play. Let's prayerfully consider how we can make a difference, both in our local community and across the globe.
Why big one?
Thank you.
Why big one?